Hey everybody, welcome to the ARWP podcast, the All Real Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Eric Novak, and today we have a special guest, referee Vincent Cantoni.
Hey, how's everyone today?
Well, weather could be better, if only we can go outside and get the fresh air that we deserve. Sadly, we're going to have to stay
Yeah,
home.
that'd be great.
Oh, we'll get through this. We'll all get through this. For now, people could just listen to the interview and, have a good listen. All right. Let's start with, the question that, I want to know the most is how you became a referee. What was the start? How did it all happen? Was it a plan that you've always wanted to be a referee? Tell me about the beginning.
Well, I always contemplated about whether I wanted to be a referee or being a wrestler. But seeing as though I have a past injuries from other sports as a kid, mainly concussions, I didn't really want to put my brain out there, if you will. Like, I don't want to get brain damage like one Chris Benoit did. So I chose the safer option, although wrestling isn't totally out of the cards because I may choose to transition at some point in the future. Still undecided, because referees are trained to do everything that a wrestler does, plus more. So we're essentially both, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what got me into it in the first place was going to my dad's shows as a kid and watching wrestling on TV, because my dad is a heel manager on the Indies. Some listeners may know him as Vinny the Guido.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of grew up around the industry.
That's great. That's a great start.
I started my training at NYWC, which is really where I got my start in the business.
How old were you when you started?
When I started, I was about 16 years old.
Wow. How long did it take you to fully get licensed to be a referee? At what age did you
They started putting me on shows about 2 weeks after my training.
Wow,
because I'm a quick learner.
So you started at 16 and you got licensed at 16. Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah. I look older than I am, so the New York State Athletic Commission didn't really ask me about for my ID. So.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been a referee already? How many years has it been?
It's going on 2-3 years.
2-3 years. Wow. And tell us an interesting story. Give us some idea of how hard it is to be a referee, or the exciting part of being a referee.
Well, people always think, oh, referee, that's a 3-count and a submission check, right? No, it's a lot harder than people give us credit for. We have to have better cardio than the wrestlers, because the wrestlers go out there for one match that's 20 minutes each, 5 minutes each, 10 minutes, sometimes more. Referees are out there multiple times in the same night, especially if this indie company only hires one referee, because that's happened to me before. I have been the only referee on some shows.
Oh, wow.
Some shows in particular with 8 to 10 matches on the card.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have a really good cardio to be able to do that.
I see. So tell me a little bit more. Tell me, how does it work to be one referee for the entire show? Have you ever, got injured? Have you what's the procedures? What happens next?
I have lost my voice before, so because there was this one show that I was working on.
You can tell us the show if you remember.
I believe it was an East Coast Pro Wrestling show on Long Island. I was the only referee, and I lost my voice because there was no water under the ring for me to drink between matches.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of had to keep going.
It's terrible.
So by intermission, my voice was just shot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun show though, nonetheless. But East Coast Pro Wrestling is a great company, family oriented. good for the kids. The main event of the last show ECPW did on Long Island was the tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Were you a part of that?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever?
Yeah.
Have you ever done an Extreme Rules match where you yourself got hurt?
Probably the most, as far as being hurt goes, that I've ever done is in pro wrestling anyway, is probably landing on thumbtacks after being thrown into a steel cage.
Ooh, that happened to you specifically?
Yeah, it was like an after the match kind of thing. It was like kind of like a war game style steel cage. Like it was one ring, but with the steel cage, but it was like war game rules. So it was like a after the match kind of thing. Like I was kind of in there trying to like clean up, check on the guys, see if they're okay, kayfabe everything, blah blah blah. So then I get up, I'm like checking on the guys, and Chris Barton, he's like, "Hey, yo, Vinny, you're gonna take a bump." I was like, "Okay." So he throws me into the cage, and then when I landed on the thumbtacks.
What show was that?
That was at a Bronx Wrestling Federation show.
Wow, that must have been really painful. So I have to ask, and again, kayfabe is out of the picture. Are those thumbtacks really painful to land on? Are those like less, like are those real thumbtacks or are those?
Those are absolutely real thumbtacks. Chris Jericho has said it in an interview before too, where he said, and I quote, "It feels like 1,000 tiny little knives."
That's terrible. Wow. And what about the steel cage? Is the steel cage 100% real?
Yes, it is pretty much like those fences that you see at like a schoolyard where they're like those steel fences that are like guarding the school. It's kind of like that. It's the same material.
Wow. So you are a fighter. That's I can't even picture that. Like that must have hurt really badly. All right.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. The match was good though.
At least the match was good.
Just, I could have done without landing on the thumbtacks.
That is true. All right. Give us an idea of who you had to be in the ring with. What kind of celebrities have you, been in the ring with?
As far as being in the ring with, I have refereed Joey Ryan's match, and I refereed Marty Bell's match.
And can you tell us what show those are at?
Those are both for Recombination Wrestling.
Interesting. And
our mutual friend Mike goes to those shows all the time, so I'm like constantly seeing Mike at BCW.
Yeah. And tell us your goals. What are in the next 10 years? What do you think your goals are going to be?
My goal is eventually to get to like one of the bigger shows, whether it be WWE, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Lucha Underground, so on and so forth.
And how does that work? How does it? Do you email? Do you send them your resume? How does that work?
In this industry, yes, it is. It could be done that way too, but it's also who you know. Very much about who you know. Gotta have those contacts.
So, that's a perfectly good point, and I definitely wanted to add more to that. So it is on who you know, and do you? Here's the thing: do you know some people? Do you have ideas? Do you like, okay, this guy could give me an opportunity? Like, are you waiting on a specific somebody to give you, their?
I do. Yeah, I do know quite a lot of big names, if you will. That if I so wanted to, I could probably ask them to put in a good word for me. But I mean, I'm usually not the kind of guy that will take a handout, though. Like I like doing things on my own power and will, kind of, so to speak.
Interesting. Have you ever refereed for House of Glory?
They're on my bucket list. I have not refereed for them before, but I definitely want to.
Interesting. All right. So yeah, you said you know people. Do you want to give us some names about who you know in this industry?
I know Big Michael Elgin.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I know Dave Christ from OVE.
Okay, that's also a really good one. Impact.
I have shared locker rooms with Sammy Callahan,
Oh, so you got the whole Impact roster, you know?
pretty much. I know former Impact Knockout, Mae Young Classic participant, and current NWA superstar Marty Bell.
Mm-hmm.
WWE Hall of Famer, the mouth of this out, Jimmy Hart.
Uh-huh.
The list goes on. There's definitely a lot of people. Me and my dad combined that we know. I know most of these guys through my dad because
Mm-hmm.
my dad's been in the business way longer than I have. So.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I hear you 100%. So give us an insight story of you being in the backstage, because the audience could see is what happens in the ring. Tell us the environment in the backstage area, especially as a referee who's got to always be, ready for anything.
Well, in this world in general, but especially in this business, anything can happen at any given time. So, for example, at that Bree Combination Wrestling show where I refereed Joey Ryan's match, I was kind of thrown in there last minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because originally it was supposed to be my good friend referee Zach Snow being the official for that match. But he decided that he couldn't really do another match, so he gave me the match instead.
Uh-huh.
Backstage, pretty much it's a nice environment. You get to meet new people, make new friends. We in the backstage, we in the wrestling community as a whole consider each other like brothers and sisters. Like we're one big family, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a feel good business. There's backstage politics and people that you might not get along with, but that's part of anything really.
Have you ever had an encounter with not a good one, not a good first impression?
I have, but we kind of squashed the beef a while ago, so I'm not really too mad about it anymore.
You want to give us a name? Maybe give us a story?
It was with Andrew Anderson and Mr. Big, but we squashed the beef and stuff like that. Everything's good now, but if you want to hear the story, I would totally say it if you want to hear.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would love to hear the story.
So again, East Coast Professional Wrestling Long Island show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only referee, so it's pretty common knowledge that the referee is the law in the ring, but if gets knocked out, the referee should not come back out again.
Yeah.
Because that's just common knowledge. Like, the referee bumps, they're practically dead and should not be going back out there. So, unless, of course, it's the main event, then if you're the only referee on the show, the only time you should bump is in the main event.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody knows that.
I agree.
So it's just ring psychology.
Yes.
So I was working on the show. I was the only referee, and Andrew Anderson was not in the main event. So they wanted me to bump, and I told them no. I told them why, and they went with the spot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they got mad at me for not bumping and absolutely for not selling it because I was like, dude, I told you no. So after I counted to 3, he spit in my face and kicked me. And they both yelled at me for doing essentially the right thing, protecting the industry. Because I'm not going to make them look like shit because if they wanted to bump me and then I went out there for the next match, it would make what they just did look like shit.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was really doing it to protect them, and they let their egos get the better of them.
Mm-hmm. And how did you guys see each other the next time? A
few months later, we kind of just squashed the beef when I saw them at a convention in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but that's another road story that actually happened on that weekend. That's a funny one.
Go for it.
It has nothing to do with Andrew, but like the road story has nothing to do with Andrew, but it has everything to do with the people I went there with. It was a pretty funny road story.
If you want to tell us, we're all here to listen.
So, Fort Wayne, Indiana, we're there for a convention. It was me, my dad, our friend Shihan, and the promoter of the company we were there representing, because we had like a gimmick table set up. So we were there with, and the promoter's name is Charlie. He is the promoter of Gimmickry Entertainment Modern Vintage Wrestling.
Yes.
And so we're there. We're in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We go to the motel, check in. It's the shittiest motel room I've ever seen in my godforsaken life. Like, the bathroom is like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. There was blood on the walls, there was blood in the bathtub, and there was blood on the toilet. I was like, I am not using this bathroom. I will wait till we get to the venue. Like, it was that bad. Not to mention, in the bed, you could feel every little spring. So, we go to the convention. We come back. So, Fort Wayne, Indiana is like the titty bar capital of the world. Let me just put that out there. It is like, there are so many titty bars there. Like, they have the titty bars out in the open, whereas here in New York, you only really see them in industrial sections hidden. But Fort Wayne, Indiana, they're out in the open, so kids can see them too. But literally on every corner. Like, they have as many titty bars on every corner in Fort Wayne, Indiana, than there are pizza shops in New York City. It's crazy.
Okay.
So, what happens is, we get back. I'm chilling in the motel room. The other three go to the titty bars, right? So, about a half hour later, Shihan comes back. So, we're talking. About a half hour later after that, Charlie comes back. And we're talking. We're there for like a good hour talking amongst the three of us. And then we're like, you know what? We should hit the road now because none of us feel like staying the night in this shitty motel. And we don't want to catch traffic on the way back to New York. So we pack the car. We check out. We go to the titty bar to get my dad. So we get there. We go in. He's nowhere to be found. We asked the people where he went. Apparently someone there looked like him, and they thought that he got arrested with the group of people that got kicked out. So now we're worried. We are driving around Fort Wayne, Indiana, now at like 4:30 in the morning. And we're driving around. We call the precinct. We're like, hey, is there like the most we're looking for a guy. His name is Vinny DiBenedetto. He's like the most New York motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. We gave his description. They checked lockup. He wasn't there. So now we're getting even more nervous. We're like driving around. We see him stumbling drunk down the road.
Oh no.
So we pick him up, and apparently he was in the strip club the entire time. Well, while we were there, he was in the smokers lounge with the promoter of the club and at least 6 strippers. And then by the time we found him, he was checking out the other strip clubs and walking down the road drunk.
That is a pretty funny story. Wow. So you must have had a crazy night that night then.
Yep. Moral of the story: if you want to go to a titty bar, Fort Wayne, Indiana is the town.
Yep. All right, let's get back to, refereeing wrestling. Tell me the things that you believe people think about referees. Like, what do you think people look at when they say referee?
When people look at a referee that aren't in the business, they usually see the guy that counts the 3 count or checks for the submission. They don't really see anything past that. However, there is a lot more to being a referee. Like, we have a lot of jobs in and out of the ring. For example, we, the referees, are really in charge of the ring crew. We help the wrestlers build the ring and stuff like that. We help take down the ring at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much we take each match when we do go over the card backstage. We listen to who we are working with that night, and we listen for who's going over. Then we talk to our people, find out what the spots are, who's going over, what's the finish, that stuff. When we're in the ring, we are the 3 count and the submission check, but we also enforce the rules of the match. Like, if it's like no disqualifications, we make sure that they, use it to the full extent of what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a normal match, we enforce the rules. Like, we break if there's a choke, we get them out of the corner, so on and so forth. But there's more to being a referee than just enforcing the rules, too, because then we also have to, like, kayfabe and literally check on them between every spot to make sure they're okay, see if they're injured. If they're injured, see if they can work on it, or if I have to, like, stop the match or throw up the X symbol to the doctors in the back.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of responsibilities that the referee has, and, like, we are really with the most important part of the match, if you think about it, because without the referee, the match is just pointless. I mean, like, we kind of, like, add to the match to make it look authentic.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very, very interesting aspect on the other side. Now, give me here. It's a 2-part question. First question: what was the least amount of people in the crowd that you were at a show, and what was the most amount of people that were in the crowd and you have to name me the show.
Least amount of people. I want to say it was a birthday party show for NYWC.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I think there were like 20 kids there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the biggest show I've worked on was a sold-out show for NYWC again. I believe that was a little bit over 500 people.
Wow. Interesting. All right, on to the next question. Have you ever had an altercation with a fan?
With a fan? No.
Then with who?
Really the only altercation I had with a worker was Andrew Anderson, as I stated earlier, but we kind of squashed that.
Understandable. All right. Okay. So here, this one is just basically about you. What inspired you to become a referee / wrestler in the future?
What really inspired me was just my love of the business growing up as a kid, seeing my dad do it, and I just kind of wanted to be in the business too. Plus, I grew up watching referees like Mike Chioda, Charles Robinson, Earl Hebner, the great referees of the pro wrestling industry.
Uh-huh. All right, so here's a question that I want you to really think about, because this one, hurts especially referees. Are you disappointed that the referees cannot be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
And why?
I believe referees are just as important as the wrestlers, managers, and announcers that people see going into the Hall of Fame every year. But, the referees are out there busting their asses more times a night than anyone else in that locker room. The announcers pretty much just sit there and commentate on the show, which is great because they are great at what they do. But they don't really require cardio to be sitting there at a desk calling the action. So the wrestlers go out there once, maybe twice a night if it's a tournament. Mm-hmm. And the managers just go out there with the wrestlers. The referees, however, are out there multiple times a night calling different matches and sometimes even taking a bump. So the referees are out there pretty much more than anyone, and yet there's no one that's a referee in the Hall of Fame. If I had to choose a referee to go into the WWE Hall of Fame now, I'd probably say it's Mike Chioda deserves it.
Mm-hmm. And why?
He's been the senior referee for WWE for a very long time now. He's been with the company since the 80s, and he recently, as we all know, got released by the company due to the coronavirus. So I believe that if any referee deserves to be in the Hall of Fame first, it's them.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. So now, the next question would be, what is one referee in WWE that you really respect and why? And then same thing goes for AEW, New Japan, Impact, and ROH.
Well, really, my answer to that is I respect all referees equally, and the answer and the reason why is because we all pretty much have the same job. We are all busting our asses out there each and every night just to put smiles on the fans' faces, help each other get over, help the wrestlers get over. We pretty much have a lot to do with this industry, and referees are just really important. So I give respect to everyone equally.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's the first company you would like to join when, 10 years come and you put that on your goals? What company do you want to join first? Remember, just because you join it first doesn't mean that's where you're going to end off at. So, where would you like to start your journey and maybe move on afterwards?
If I had to choose one company to start with, I'd probably say either Impact or AEW.
Okay, and now give me the reason why.
Knowing people on their rosters, because those are the two companies that I know the most people. Just great locker rooms to be with. Good action. Good paychecks.
Uh-huh. All right. So, let's talk about your end goal. Is it in WWE? Is that where you would like to officially retire as a referee?
If I get there, yes, I would like to retire with WWE in the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, I'm not trying to stab WWE, but there's always, comments about everybody, every company. WWE is very strict and not, as free as other companies. So, do you feel comfortable to work at WWE?
I would feel comfortable as long as they give me a big paycheck.
Uh-huh. Interesting. All right.
Because, everyone there pretty much gets paid pretty well, so as long as I get a good-sized paycheck like everybody else, that's fair, I'm good.
Uh-huh. So, what are the exact rules for a referee? To the people who don't know, what a referee's rules are, what are rules that you always get right before a show?
Pretty much the rules of being a referee are simple. Don't get in the wrestler's way, because then it just looks sloppy. You have to kind of react to everything that they're doing in the ring because you're trying to make it look authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of react as if they're actually, getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that's what they're doing. When they land on their neck, they're just, they're selling it as if they actually just fucking broke the thing. To make it look more authentic, the referee should have that same reaction, holy shit, he just landed on his neck, not just, stand there and, look like you're just watching. Because then it just takes away from the thing. Because, then the fans are going to notice that, and they're like, oh, the referee didn't acknowledge that, so he must be fine.
Mm-hmm. Is that
You gotta pay attention to your surroundings as well. Watch the wrestlers, see where they're going. If they're headed towards you, get out of their way, but stay relatively close so you can still lay down the law.
Mm-hmm. Is there any more rules, or is that all of them?
That's basically it.
All right. So let's get more into who you are as a person. Do you have any hobbies other than being a referee? Do you collect anything?
I have a collection of WWE and World Wrestling Federation figures, a lot of which used to be my dad's when he was a kid back in the 80s. I have a belt collection. I have WWE and anything pro wrestling related magazines, especially because WWE magazines aren't made anymore, so those are kind of collector's items. Especially the old World Wrestling Federation magazines back when Hulk Hogan was on the cover and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of those. Me as a person outside of my wrestling hobbies, I cook. That because it's therapeutic to cook. Gets my mind off a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I cook. I sing. I draw. Mainly cartoons. I like to draw.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. Here is one that, there has been many, but tell me a match that you like for each company. Like your favorite match in each company. Starting with whatever company you want to start with.
My favorite match for Impact Wrestling happened a few months ago. Sami Callihan versus Tessa Blanchard for the Impact World Championship.
Hard to kill?
Phenomenal match.
Hard to kill?
Yeah, hard to kill pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Why did you like
match.
it so much?
I was just watching that match and I was thinking this is something I definitely want to show my future kids because it's something that kept me on the edge of my seat.
Mm-hmm.
Back and forth match, good. They kept their spots. Awesome, and they made history by having a woman be the world champion for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that match as well. Speaking of Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard, you told me that you shared an experience with Sami Callihan. You saw him in the locker room. Have you ever seen Tessa Blanchard in the locker room?
He is a really nice guy to talk to. The show I worked with him on was for Modern Vintage Wrestling, in 2018, 2019, at the Lithuanian Music Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was for the Bruiser Brody Cup pay-per-view show. We were live on Fight TV. I refereed the pre-show for that show as well. During Sami Callihan's match at that show in particular, he used a crutch as a weapon, and the plastic part kind of came off and hit a fan in the face, busting him open. So he had to be taken backstage so he can get stitched up. And after the match, Sami Callihan was so nice and apologetic and everything. He really genuinely felt bad to the point where he gave the fan free merch. It was great to see Sami Callihan being a humble guy like that. I have a lot of respect for him.
No, yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Sami Callihan. Very nice guy, and I've also watched an interview recently on him at Chris Van Vliet. So what about Tessa Blanchard? Have you ever shared an experience with Tessa Blanchard?
Not yet. I hope to eventually. If I ever work for Impact.
Okay. So what's the next company match you want to look at?
Ring of Honor, Danny Moff versus Jeff Cobb.
All right. And again, give us the reasoning for that match. Why you like it so much?
One, because I know Dan Moff. And two big guys going at it, putting on a wrestling clinic. It's almost unheard of. Because usually when you think of big guys wrestling, you don't really see them doing the shit that they do. You usually see them for example, Big Show versus Great Khali. great wrestlers when they're wrestling little guys, but two big guys going out in the ring is kind of slow. These guys, Jeff Cobb and Dan Moff, were like fast-paced, going at each other. It was just fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. So you told us, Dan Moss. Have you ever had an experience with Jeff Cobb? Have you ever seen him?
I have not yet had to experience with Jeff Cobb yet. I'm hoping that I get to somewhere down the line.
Mm-hmm. All right. Again, next company. The match, the reasoning.
All Elite Wrestling, I believe it was Fighter Fest or something like that. Whichever one was Darby Allin versus Cody.
Yeah, that was Fighter Fest. The no DQ. The DQ match where both men won basically.
Yeah, where they went to the time limit draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal match.
Speaking of that match, really funny. Next week on AEW, if I'm not wrong, if it's not Archer versus Dustin, I think it's Cody versus Darby, part 2 next week.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
Have you ever shared an experience with Darby or Cody?
Yes, I've shared a locker room with Darby before at Evolve.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you refereed at Evolve?
I did when it was at the NYWC Sportatorium. I did their pre-show.
Wow, how was that experience? I'm sorry to cut off the previous question, but let's get to Evolve for a second. How was being in an Evolve ring? Because that's as close as you could get to.
It was a good experience. Helping set up before the show. Talking to the promoter, Gabe Sapolsky, great guy. He used to be the booker for Ring of Honor back when CM Punk was there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Evolve's a great locker room. That show in particular was Darby Allin versus Roderick Strong.
Glorious match.
Phenomenal match. And then on that same show was Austin Theory, and I forgot who his tag team partner was at the time, but they were challenging the Street Profits for the Evolve Tag Team Championships.
Mm-hmm.
Great match. I was talking to Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins a lot in the locker room that day too. Cassius Ohno had a match on that show too, which was really good. I believe his opponent, if I'm not mistaken, was Josh Briggs, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you definitely had an awesome experience at Evolve. So let's get in depth with Evolve. Evolve is really the closest place to get to the WWE. Like, that's where WWE looks at talent a lot at Evolve Wrestling. Tell us more about the future with you in Evolve. What's the conversation like with you going back to Evolve Wrestling? Because they do a lot of shows in New York. Like, a lot of shows go, to New York. So, have you ever had contact with them afterwards?
Afterwards, not recently, but I'm going to try my luck again, see if I can get back into contact with Gabe,
Mm-hmm.
see if we can work something out.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the previous question was, experience with Darby Allin, Cody. You said you had experience with Darby. Have you ever had experience with Cody?
With Cody, not yet. Hopefully. I have had experiences with former WWE Cruiserweight Champion Tony Nese, though.
Was he also at the Evolve show?
No, that was like before he got signed to WWE. He was still wrestling at NYWC.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, that's really cool. So you got to see him before he even made it to WWE.
Yeah, I was there for his last match at NYWC before he got signed too.
Who was his last match against?
I believe it was against Demetrius Papadon. Who was also a great indie worker. If you haven't checked out his work, definitely check him out. Phenomenal worker.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, the independent scene is full of amazing talent, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will definitely check him out. Going back to the questions, you gave us Impact, you gave us ROH, you gave us AEW. What is the next company you want to go with? The match and the reasoning why.
For WWE, Raw and SmackDown, I'm gonna start with Raw. For Monday Night Raw, I'd say Aleister Black versus AJ Styles Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. This year was really good. And I'm not just saying that because I was at that pay-per-view. I'm saying that because it was actually a really good no disqualification match, especially with the Undertaker making his presence felt.
Have you ever shared an experience with AJ or Aleister?
I had an experience as a fan with Aleister when he was Tommy N before he signed with WWE.
Was he also at the NYWC?
No. It was at a different company. I forgot which one. But I did have an experience with Killian Dane at NYWC when he was wrestling under the ring name Big Damo.
All right, so you gave us a Raw. What's the SmackDown match?
SmackDown, probably Goldberg versus Braun Strowman at WrestleMania, just because they put Braun Strowman over as the Universal Champion finally.
Have you ever had an experience with Braun Strowman or Goldberg?
No, not yet.
I don't even remember what Braun Strowman's name was in the indie scene, if you want honesty. I didn't even...
Yeah, he wasn't even on the indie scene before he was in WWE. He just started training at the Performance Center.
Yeah, okay. I thought I missed on a whole thing, but no, yeah. I don't think he ever even did any independent scene stuff. All right.
He didn't.
You still have a few more companies. You have NXT, NXT UK, AEW Dark, New Japan Pro Wrestling, NWA, and MLW. If you even watch all these companies.
Yeah, MLW is really every match that they put on is really good, so can't really choose there.
Oh, come on! I love MLW, but there is always one match. It's like I couldn't stop. Like there has to be one match for MLW that you really enjoyed.
I wouldn't really say one match, but any match that has the faction Injustice is really good. Also, side note, I know Jordan Oliver, so that's probably why.
All right.
I haven't worked with Jordan Oliver yet, but I've had backstage experiences with him plenty of times. So
that's great. That's great. Have you ever had an experience with Brian Myers?
No, not yet.
All right, because that was one that since we're from New York, he's one of the. New York, Prince of Queens, he's one of the New York type wrestlers. Have you ever refereed for Creative Pro?
Not yet. They're also on my bucket list. But Kurt Hawkins did actually train at NYWC before getting assigned to WWE the first time.
Was that before you?
That was way before I started. Yeah. That was way back in 2007, 2008, when he was training there. Zack Ryder as well was training there at the same time. Tony Nese trained there. His first ring name there was Maverick.
Yeah, okay. So, I believe you got MLW. All right, what's after MLW? What company do you want to look at next?
NXT UK, Finn Balor versus Walter was really good.
Have you ever had experience with either of those guys?
No, not yet.
Alright, because I know Walter does a lot of Evolve shows and a lot of Progress Wrestling. I know Finn Balor mainly did New Japan, but I don't think he did anything in the US. But alright, what's next?
New Japan Pro Wrestling, going back a while, Wrestle Kingdom 12, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho was a phenomenal match. I still go on YouTube and watch that match to this day. It was a classic.
I agree. That is definitely... I remember literally going at a WWE event, and it was Raw 25, if I'm not wrong, it was Raw 25. And as I was sitting there during main event, while they were taping main event, I was literally watching that match. Because I think that match, that Raw 25 happened, like 2 days, 3 days after that match, actually, at Wrestle Kingdom. If I'm wrong, then it was a different Raw event that I was at. But the event that I was at was literally 4 to 3 days after that match, and I was watching it again on my phone during the event. So yeah, I
but
agree.
that was a great feud.
Yeah, it was an amazing feud, and to this day, they're still evolving it at AEW. At one point, Jericho and Kenny are gonna square off again, and that's gonna just escalate, more.
Yeah. Speaking of AEW, I am still waiting for them to turn Adam Page heel.
It's the point where I don't think it's gonna be a heel turn. More is just him going on his own. Like, I don't think Adam Page will turn heel, because when you look at a heel, you look at MJF, you look at Shawn Spears. I don't think he's gonna turn. I'm pretty sure he's always gonna be their first friends, but I feel like he's gonna leave the Elite. He's gonna make a statement, and that's gonna be him hitting Kenny, which is probably gonna start a rivalry between him and Kenny. But look at Cody and Kenny. Cody and Kenny are still part of the Elite. They had a whole rivalry. My favorite rivalry of all time is their rivalry, because New Japan had one of their best years due to that rivalry. The match with the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi and Kenny, Cody and Okada. One of my favorite rivalries was that. So if I do see Adam Page, hit Kenny at their next tag match, if they lose the titles or they retain the titles, it's not going to really be a heel. I don't think people are gonna boo Hangman. I think people love Hangman so much because of his character and his development, that even when he does it, he's gonna be on his own. He's gonna be like Cody. He's gonna be It's not gonna be like the MJF. It's gonna be more of like a face who's just on his own, who will eventually help out his team when needed.
My opinion on, as far as heels go, is the top heel in pro wrestling right now, I gotta say, is a tie between MJF or, on the indies, Mr. Darius Carter.
Now give me. So I'm not familiar with Darius Carter, and it's really shocking because I am a huge independent wrestling freak. I mean, I watch everything in the indies. So give me a description of theirs.
Darius Carter is right now the longest reigning Bree Combination World Heavyweight Champion. He's had the title for a little bit over a year. He's faced guys like Azrael. He's faced my friend Yaya, the gifted one. He's faced Montana Black. He's faced Dan Moff, Austin Theory. He's faced Sue Young. He's faced Riley Shepard at the Queen of the North 2.
Mm-hmm.
For the
But what
World
makes
Championship.
him? What makes him a heel? Like, what does he do? Because if you're comparing him to the same level as MJF, then there has to be something that he brings to the table.
He faces fans as he makes his way to the ring.
He what? Repeat that.
He pie faces fans on his way going around the ring. It's great. He's really disrespectful on the mic, which is awesome. Cuts the best heel promos I've ever heard in my life, other than MJF, of course. His promos are pretty much the same. As far as being disrespectful on the mic goes, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
His gimmick is pro wrestling's richest prize, so he kind of has that arrogant kind of character. Definitely worth giving him a watch on YouTube.
No, yeah, that's
his match with Davey Boy Smith Jr. at Warriors of Wrestling was awesome. Great match.
Oh wait, I think I saw that match. Wait. I watched Warrior Wrestling. I think I saw that match actually. For some reason, I'm getting a blank, but I'm gonna recheck it out. I think I know who you're talking about now. I think I have a more of a mindset. I'm definitely gonna.
His match with Jordan Grace at Battle Club Pro is really good too.
Mm-hmm. So, you put him at the same exact level as MJF?
Yes, he is by far one of the top heels in the industry right now. I have a lot of respect for him as a person, but in the industry, he is like one of the top heels on the indies right now.
All right. That's very interesting. That gives an audience a look at independent's biggest heel at the moment. So, where were we? We were talking about New Japan. Now, I think we have AEW Dark and NWA, and that's about it. I think that's what we have. Those two matches left.
For NWA, I'd say recently when Ziggy Dice won the television title, that was a great match. AEW Dark. Don't really know. I haven't really seen a lot of AEW Dark. I've seen a few episodes here and there when I get the chance. I mean, I try and watch it as much as I can, but recently I haven't really had the chance to watch much of AEW Dark. But I'm going to try and catch up on as much of that as possible sometime soon.
All right. So yeah, explain why NWA, why the one where Ziggy Dice wins.
That was just a good match overall. It pretty much kept me on the edge of my seat. Shock factor of Ziggy Dice. Like, he's a great worker. I did not expect that outcome, but I am very glad that it happened. He deserves it. Like, he is one of the hardest workers on that roster right now, and yeah.
Interesting. So, how does it feel going from wrestling in front of 20 people to wrestling somewhere with a packed house?
It's definitely a different experience. Like, you kind of get those butterflies in the stomach, if you will. Like, it's a nice feeling knowing that you're making a name for yourself. You're working for bigger companies in front of bigger crowds, and in the hopes of maybe eventually someone noticing and getting you signed somewhere. It's like it's definitely a good experience.
I don't remember if this is true, but I think you told me that you know Matt Striker.
Yes, I know him for a long time. Me, him, my dad. I've known Matt Striker since before I started training. First time I met him was at a outdoor wrestling event. I believe it was a fundraiser back in 2014 at Jones Beach Theater on the boardwalk.
Which boardwalk? The Coney Island boardwalk?
It was Jones Beach, Long Island.
Long Island.
They have a little amphitheater over there where they did a wrestling event. Matt Striker was in the main event. That's the first time I met Matt. My dad introduced me to him because he's known my dad for a while, and then I kept seeing Matt Striker at shows here and there, and then I finally started training at NYWC, where I started really getting to know Matt. So he's a really nice guy. As you've probably seen the picture of me, Mike, my friend Aaron, and then Matt Striker photobombing in the background.
Yeah. It looked like you guys all had a fun time.
Yeah,
so
it was a great time.
So how did your family react when you told them that wrestling is what you wanted to do?
My dad was supportive of it as long as I keep myself safe, because he doesn't want me getting brain damage with my history of concussions and stuff like that. But yeah, they're proud of my work.
That's great. That's great that they're proud and that they approve. It's a lot. How is it for school? Are you balancing school or work, or any other work other than being a Are you balancing any other?
Yes, I am balancing it right now. Currently unemployed. Still looking for a new shoot job on the books, stuff like that. But until then, just juggling around wrestling, schoolwork, online. If I know I'm gonna miss a class or whatever, I let my professor know, and then I take the work with me, or I just make it up when I get back.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask you, how old are you now? You started when you were 16. How old are you now?
I'll be 19 in August.
Okay. Well, yeah. You have definitely a long way to go, and you definitely have all the time in the world to start. And you've already started in so many big places in wrestling already. Like a lot of people aren't even at your level that are referees. Right now in the independent scene, it's very very hard to find an opportunity or an audience due to the fact that there's so many.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was awesome. This was an awesome insight. This is really cool. If you have any other story that's interesting that involves you as a referee, please go ahead and tell us. If not, this was awesome. I got some.
I have a funny story.
All right, so go for it. Let's hear it.
This is more of like a prank rib story.
That's awesome.
So I have a lot of these stories, but I'm sure I could tell the rest of them on another occasion if you guys have me on the podcast again.
Of course. We're not saying goodbye yet, but go ahead. Tell us your story.
So the story I'm going to tell right now was at a East Coast Pro Wrestling event, and as I stated earlier in the show, I was the only referee. So what happens is there's this indie faction called the Boy Band, and their usual music is "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Great song, but they were on I believe they were match number 5 on the card. So match 1 on the card, the DJ gives away their music to Connor Riley. So now they're stuck with no music.
Oof.
So I think to myself, well, they're backstage, so they don't know this happened. So either A, I let the announcer announce them and then they come out to no music at all, or B, I go tell the DJ that they accidentally messed up and give them new music.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose to give them new music because this is the type of company that will announce the people before their music hits and before they make their way to the ring.
Okay.
So they're old school like that.
That's perfect, and that's pretty interesting.
So what happens is I go to the DJ, let the DJ know that they kind of messed up a little bit. I tell the DJ to have them coming out to all the single ladies. And man, were they pissed.
I would be too, man. That was not a good call on your end.
It was so funny. Their reaction was priceless.
Did you get heat for it after?
Oh, no, we all laugh about it now, but at the time, they were like, Vinny! I was like... yeah, it was funny.
Yeah,
of course, when they got to the ring, they're like, Vinny, what did you do? I was like, well, the DJ... I told them what happened in the ring. I was like, well, the DJ gave your music to Connor Riley, so I kind of couldn't leave you guys hanging.
He gets a privilege. You guys don't.
It was definitely a funny occasion.
No, yeah, that's great. And again, we are hoping to have you again on here soon to hear more of these awesome stories. Please tell people where they can find you on social media or bookings.
For booking inquiries, you could email me, referee Vincent Cantoni @gmail.com. Or for bookings, you can find me on my social media on Twitter @RefVinCantoni and on Instagram @referee Vincent Cantoni. Underscores between referee and Vincent and another underscore between Vincent and Cantoni. So it's referee underscore Vincent underscore Cantoni. And on Facebook, you could friend me on Facebook, Vincent Cantoni, or you can like my page, Referee Vincent Cantoni. Mm-hmm. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Referee Vincent Cantoni, where you can find my work.
Mm-hmm. And they want to give us your dad's business so they can check it out as well?
My dad is on Instagram at Vinny the Guido.
All right. This is the ARWP podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I cannot wait to see you guys next time. If you want to support me in any way, please share, subscribe, like, comment. All my socials are in the bio below. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for being awesome.